Hello, welcome to the Safer Digital Society, exploring threats from the future to prevent the attacks of tomorrow. I'm here with Stu, who's a pen tester. He'll find the vulnerability and then explain it to you like you're a 5-year-old.
And I'm here with Scotty, the only person who can turn your panic into a PowerPoint.
And Ted. I played that on my guitar, by the way.
So Scotty, a little bit different this time. We're going to look to the future. Ransomware in 2030. What's it going to look like? What's next?
Oh, what a good question that is. What comes after ransomware? Can we work it out? And then, can we work out how to stop it? Or at least understand what's going to happen? Well, here we go, facts from the future. You like that noise, don't you? That's the sound that future faxes make. It's
What was that?
Good. Doing my best Zoidberg impression. Please help! The year is 2030 and we've suffered a network breach and attackers have stolen our data. Shock horror. But they have not issued a demand as of yet and nothing is encrypted. What's going on? So, if ransomware was to evolve, as everything does, if you think about where we are now in the evolution of ransomware, it started off network access, encryption, disruption of your service. I want money to bring your service back online. Cool. Then it evolved, so we already know that. It evolved from, I've got access to your network, I've encrypted your data, and I've stolen your sensitive information. You will pay me to unencrypt and or you will pay me to take actions on that data.
Yep.
Now we're starting to see things like triple extortion. So what's next? Now, as we fight each element of those, as we start to defend against each element of that, so with encryption, how do we defend against encryption? Well, a strong backup, the ability to recover quicker. There are products out there that specialize in anti-ransomware, ones that are able to capture the keys during encryption and then decrypt so you can never be encrypted, etc., etc. Really cool stuff. So you're almost eliminating the ransom, the encryption part of a ransomware attack. So I think, personally, the shift's then going to go on to that accessing data. Now, we've already talked about different types of breaches and actually how they can lead to access of sensitive information, and we're already living in it. You know, what was the saying you said to me the other day about information being the currency and we're all the price?
Yeah, we're the price of the data, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only affecting us. We pay the ransoms.
Yeah.
We generate the data, so...
Yeah, and the point is, we're going to move into that space a bit more, into that data exfiltration space. Now, what can we do with that data? Here's what I see a lot, is we've got 700 gigabytes of your data, it's on a breach forum, pay us or we'll release it. Very simplistic, very much...
That's not going to go away, though. Let's be honest, that's not going to disappear. In my mind, the big OCGs, the big malware groups, cyber extortion groups, things like that are currently doing this, are just going to pass it down. Like, it's going to go lower levels of criminality, lower levels than that. So by 2030, who's going to be doing the majority of cyber extortion? I think it's going to be the lower criminal groups. And that bigger criminal groups who want more money, more control, are going to slightly change tactic. And I think with that, there's going to be maybe a new wave of attacks. And again, we don't know what technology is going to come in the future, all right? So it depends what we do next as a human race. But when it comes to data, and data is money at the end of the day, how are they going to evolve from what we see now? Because you're right, we are putting the protections in place. We are getting newer softwares with AI integration that can automate stuff, make things, detect things, whatever else. It's going to get smarter, but then the criminals will always get smarter. We're always one step behind. In reality, we're never ahead, because you can't defend against something you don't know. Yeah. You can theoreticize it like we are doing right now, and you can hypothesize anything you want, but until it's in action, We just don't know. So, in my mind, they're going to move forward. Things are going to slide. There's going to be a sliding scale. It's going to go downhill, low commodity, cyber extortion kind of thing. The criminal groups on the street corner will be extorting people for money because of the data they have.
Yeah.
All right. Whether that's from mobile phones, emails, whatever else it might be. That. But your big organized criminal gangs are going to be looking to get the same value of money in 2030 as they are now through cyber extortion. How that looks, I'm really not sure.
It's interesting because when we talk about it, we're really talking about a business model. We're going outside of actual cybersecurity into how is the attacker's business model going to evolve.
Yeah.
Those larger groups will be in charge of getting hold of that data, but then they'll distribute it rather than being the direct dealing directly with their clients, with the people they've extorted.
Yeah.
They're going to create a market for themselves, and I think we'll see more things like Amazon Web Services for stolen data. Right, you're literally going to have a website that you can go visit and buy certain types of stolen data. And then we have to go into that and look at it like, how is it categorized? Is it PII data? Are you stealing individuals' bank accounts? And then, like you say, the low-level criminal sat on the street corner is going to go, I want 200 credit card details, and I'll go, which you're already doing now, but this is just, we're talking about scale of this. Yeah. Actually, I want to get 1,000 credit card details, and I'll go buy some dodgy £10 Xbox vouchers and then sell them at Christmas. Or all the way up to that almost corporate espionage as a service, where you've got businesses and organisations going to these groups and going, you don't perchance have information on competitor B's pricing list.
Yeah, because it gives them an edge.
Gives them an edge, right? And how's anyone going to trace that back? If you're working in those channels, it's very hard to identify that traffic of a sale in a web marketplace. Even now, even with our current capabilities, we talk about open and closed sources. Those closed sources are actually so limited. Really, I mean, there is just so much that goes on without being monitored that you just wouldn't be able to trace it. You'd have signs of it. We'd be sat around going, how do they know that? Yeah. But then that direct correlation, that smoking gun bit of evidence to go, they know that because, 4 years ago, X company was breached and that information has now made its way to someone who can make value of it. It won't be there.
I think also we need to consider what's going to happen in the financial markets. Do you know what I mean? Like, is the US dollar going to hold its weight against gold, et cetera, et cetera? Are they going to do cyber extortion for minerals? Or, what I mean by that is they're not going to say, hey, give me minerals. What they might say is, I'm going to extort one of the biggest mining companies on this planet, so they've got the money because they hold the minerals, they can pay me.
Yeah.
But the attack's going to look very different. And if that is, like you say, a corporate espionage as a service, or a tactical cyber extortion, or whatever else like that, it's going to be on a large scale. Yeah. And obviously right now, I saw it yesterday, that there was a wallet that had released so many millions to a few other wallets, and these wallets were renowned for criminal activity or being spreading of money across the globe in different areas. Okay, until we can also define that chain of responsibility for where those transactions go, who owns it, whatever else, it's going to be very difficult to do so. But I think in 2030 that will be in place. But I think it comes down to how we as a human race are dealing with the monetary value of data.
Yeah. How much is your personal information worth?
It's
Not
worth
just
nothing.
to you.
I mean, to me, it's
from a
worth
personal
everything,
perspective. Yeah, I don't want my email address, my home address, my personal life being given away without my consent.
What happens in 2030 when that's just common knowledge anyway? It's worth nothing. Because if you think about it now, right, where every single one of us is on a breach forum. Our email addresses have been leaked, sold millions of times. On mobile numbers leaked, sold millions of times. That's why you get scam calls, right? It happens. But when that data starts going up to include maiden name, home address, date of birth, and it will, because the data's out there, we're signing up to more services, they'll get sold on. and that data becomes so commonplace it's worth nothing, what are they going for afterwards?
And this was where I put my intelligence head on and go, how do you build an what's valuable data? Is that you're called Stu a valuable piece of information?
No, right.
Is that you're called Stu and your shopping habits are XYZ?
Potentially.
It's valuable to someone who wants to know how to
He
advertise
wants to
you.
sell me something, right?
So when someone's trying to extort you, what they need to know is what are Stu's weak points and how do I get to him
Yep.
through those weak points? And then you can start looking at what data is valuable to you. You can go, well, I don't want people knowing I'm paying medical bills or for a family member, or I don't want people know my shopping habits have changed because I'm pregnant.
Or they don't want you knowing that you're an avid gambler. Do you know what I mean? And that's the effect. It becomes very personal, but outside of the personal space, which is, I think, it's only got a finite value to it.
Yep.
All right.
At the low level criminality.
Yeah. Which is where they'll hit.
Yeah.
Because it's easy, it's commodity, it's what they do each and every other day. You know, whether it's credit card fraud or PII kind of fraud-based stuff like that.
Identity stealing, creating a bank account,
Yeah.
getting an overdraft. Yeah.
And then it's going to ramp up to the mid-low company.
Yeah.
You know, international company. How are criminals going to look at your Fortune 100 companies and go, how do I get them to pay me? So we used to be able to with ransomware, we used to be able to with cyber extortion. How do I, as a criminal, get that Fortune 100 company to give me money like they used to?
So I'll break that problem down a bit. I'd say, how do they initially get access? Now, interesting way of using personal data to get access to something is if your personal information gets breached on a third-party application, can I guess that Stu at Orange Cyberdefense and possibly this password is being reused? That's something we see now. MFA comes in, that sort of stops that. But here becomes where the more personal side of it lies, and we've seen some cases of this, and it's very hard to prove, is we see now big ransomware groups offering out bounties, right? They say, if you, as an individual, give us access to something that we deem valuable, a Fortune 100 company, an engineering company, we'll pay you X amount.
Happens in South America a lot, right? Cartel groups will happily go up, steal your child and say, please go put this in this bank or building society or kiosk or whatever else. You can have your child back and we'll pay you handsomely for the next few months.
Further on to that as well, is they'll be targeting countries where your financial recognition from the job you do maybe isn't as much as in other countries. So, for example, a European headquartered company decides to outsource some of its admin, some of its IT admin to other parts of the world. Those other parts of the world, mainly because it's cheaper, they're the ones they'll approach and go, I can give you 2 years' salary for your access. Not just access, because sometimes just username and password isn't enough. Imagine if I came and said to you, I've already built the infrastructure, I'll send you an email. All you have to do is 5:05, just at the end of work, click that link and walk away from your laptop, leaving it open. You fell for a phishing attack.
Yeah.
Oh well, people do. We managed to get access to an endpoint overnight. Very hard to prove. From the human element, I mean, there is no evidence to be able to go get that without a complex investigation, which, let's face it, we're just not going to do.
£20 is £20, right?
Yeah, there are signs of it. I mean, I don't want to give it away, but what we looked at is, you know, we can tell when machines are on or off, right? When they shut down, when they restart, when you log out. Now imagine if we built a pattern of life for an individual user and went 5 o'clock every day, that user shuts down his laptop and is out the office. On that one day is the one day he left it on with 5:05 clicking that link. So I think that's an interesting way in which attackers will try to gain access to networks, is through the extortion of human elements. One of it is, like I said, bug bounties and money, but also what happens if they started being able to get very personal with you, use your data against you to say, you are going to do this for us because we have X, Y, Z.
But is that the way that ransomware groups are going to go, or is that the way low-level criminals are going to fund bigger groups?
Particularly that's more about the initial access, right? So I think that's how potentially
It's
certain
happening
groups.
now. So
It's
that's
happening now. So then once they've got access then, and they get onto a system, from attackers' perspective, when we pen test hat on, you're going to do lateral movement, privilege escalation, look to deliver a payload.
Yeah.
If you're, as we've already said, we're going to move towards that data. So actually, lateral movement, find the data, and then take the data out. Whether you choose to do a payload after that, I think that will probably start to drop off, because if you think about it from the attack chain, there's actually more work for the what I'd like to call the attacker to do, is to go, right, well, if I can laterally move using the lowest privileges I can to access this data, or as we know, poor data governance just allows data to be accessed from anywhere, as long as you've got some credentials. That is an easier attack to perform, must be, than adding that extra step of, I've got to get somewhere that has enough privileges and access to be able to successfully do an encryption process. So in my mind, that's sort of the motivation for an attacker is, and we talk about how AI will make the bar lower for attackers able to write their own scripts and figure this stuff out without having years of experience.
Yeah, so it'll be what, AI target selection?
AI target selection, which will encourage people to just take the data.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about what we can do with that data once we've gone. So what we see now, breach forum, 70 gigabytes of data open to the public. There you go, have a look at this. Not much weaponization of it, right? It is just, we've stolen it, you're going to pay us. The key leverage they have is pay us not to breach. We've got your data, pay us not to make it public. That's what they're sort of saying to a client today.
Yeah, potentially, but again, is it a statement? Is it? Is there a multifaceted attack happening there? So, like in this instance, please help. There's been a breach, data stolen, no encryption, no demand. What's happening? What's coming next? Because in my mind, this is, we're telling you we've got something. Wait out.
When we've been doing some playing around with our AI tools recently, what I think we both realised was how easy it is to make a volume of work quicker. Yeah. So if I stole 700 gigabytes of a company as an individual, and I don't know necessarily that company's background, the information I've got, how relevant it is, but if I used a model to put it through and go, tell me what is the valuable parts of it, classify this data and tell me what's interesting, I can then go back with my blackmail and go, be very specific. I can weaponize that data and go, what I have of yours is your client list with the discounts you offer, and you don't want me going to client A and telling them about the discount to client B. I can see that's 200k of a discount. Yeah. You pay me 100k and I'll keep that quiet and no one needs to know. And so you're making a business decision for them, working out the monetary value of it, and then going back to them very specifically. You're weaponizing that information that you've got. Secondly, what you also can do is you can figure out who else might find this information valuable. So at the moment we see a lot of, I've stolen your data, I'm blackmailing you, as opposed to, I've stolen your data, screw you, I've got it now. Right, where else can I make money off this data? Yeah. Either selling it to lower level criminals, selling it to competitors, selling it to nation states if it's interesting enough. And I think we'll see more of that categorization and weaponization of the data that's taken, and less of the actual encryption process.
Yeah. It's a difficult one. This is the really difficult one to answer in my mind, because we don't know what technology is going to exist to enable them to potentially hit harder. Yeah. AI is it's a buzzword of the moment, isn't it? Everyone's using it. Yeah. Quantum's coming.
Oh, quantum, yes.
Quantum is coming, right? So people are worried about this store now, decrypt later effect, because they're saying that, that quantum will destroy current encryption standards. Yeah, okay, but I've said this before, and I'm a firm believer in it, and I'm sure there will be some guy out there saying, Stu, you are wrong. However,
yes,
we've had a timeline of no encryption to encryption, right, as it sits, with the processing power that we've currently got, from nothing to something. When quantum comes in, there's going to be something, and then 10 years of quantum, there's going to be something else, even better. What's to say that in 10 years of quantum, you can't break the first sets of quantum encryption?
Storing data.
It's the same thing, just more powerful. It's exactly the same thing, more powerful. And the people that are saying, even quantum computing will not break certain encryption routines. Yet. I'm always going to put that on yet, because everyone says, this new appliance that's been released isn't hackable, until it is. Yeah.
We're quantum safe for now. But I agree. And also what's interesting about that is data's been getting stolen for the best part of 15, 20 years. So there is this
There was a shift, wasn't there? There was a shift from access to data.
There is this bank of data somewhere. I'm not saying I don't know what it is, but definitely attack groups will have their R-clone servers, their jot boxes, where they've been keeping this data for multiple years, ready to go for when that technology catches up and makes these attacks viable. Yeah, I agree with you. I think
It's a difficult one this way.
It's not a risk you can just brush away as it's for the future. It is actually good data governance needs to be now. Like what's happened in the past, we can't go back and erase that. But from this moment on, you could say, I'm not going to allow my data to be taken, and then even fall into that risk category. Yeah. It's preventable, right? It is completely preventable.
It is until the new attack happens, right? And we can't predict 0 days. We don't know what's around the corner, and it's shown this week with a major grocery company in the UK has just released that they have been hit with malware. It's one of the biggest in the UK, and they should have been doing things right. And I'm pretty sure they've got an IR team. I'm pretty sure they've got SOC team. I'm pretty sure they've got pen test teams and the rest supporting them, but they were still taken.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not fallible. None of these solutions are 100% the golden bullet.
And again, this is what I was coming to at the start of is what's going to be the normal? Is it that the fact that data is stolen all the time and it's of a no cost anymore? So what is going to be the big earner for these cyber extortion groups, these OCGs that are existing, or even terrorist groups or geopolitical, entities, nation states, whatever you want to call it, where are they going to go? Because if data is free, essentially, because everyone has access to everything, or people know your DNA markup because that site that you used for family history was leaked or sold on the internet, whatever else. What becomes the commodity? Is it data? Don't know. Is it processing power? Don't know. I just don't know where this is going.
Interesting. I've only ever dealt with a few cases where it wasn't an encryption, but it was about control. It was only things like, especially as you move to cloud services, if I lock you out of your cloud service, I take all your admin accounts, I change the passwords, IP geo-lock you out of your account, it's very hard for you to get back in. So you have to go through the provider of the cloud service because you don't own that infrastructure anymore. No. The whole nature of cloud is I've passed this all on to someone else to deal with the back end.
Yeah, but that's slopey shoulder syndrome, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of the time you're doing that because you do not want that risk.
Want that risk or own that potential. But if you were to, say, be a sufferer of loss of control, someone's taking control of your cloud service, you have to go to your infrastructure provider, you have to go to your third party and say, they've taken control, we want it back. Yep. Now that triggers a process whereby I know that it goes, who are you? Can you now prove you are who you say you are? Because otherwise anyone can go to them and say, remotely, I've been locked out on my thing. You'll have to have somewhere being able to identify and recover that very quickly. But that will lead to a loss of service. Now, as we move more into on-demand, that loss of service is going to become probably more valuable. Right now we think, how long could Netflix be down before everyone gave it? A couple hours, fine. But what happens when you've got so many competitors that those hours become even more important? People are so used to 100% on-demand service now that once you start not being able to deliver that, and you become a victim of they'll go, I don't want that. I want the one that's going to give me the service that I want or the thing that I want all the time is not being interrupted, and they'll move very quickly. I think, especially with subscription models, it's easier to get rid of something and move to something else now than it ever was. It's not a physical product you're buying and you go, well, I can't take this back for a refund. Yeah. You're going, cancel that, I'm with these guys. And so as a business, you'll be like, I can't lose my customer base just because I'm getting hit with these interruptions of service.
Yeah, okay, but that goes to offloading your environments, your ability, because maybe you don't want that ability, as a digital asset company, so to speak. Do you want on-prem? No, you don't. You want it all. Let someone else deal with it. However, you're right, especially in this case. You know, the police help. We've got a breach. His data's being stolen. No encryption. No demands. Yeah. Right. Well, what's coming? Because I don't think that's the end of it. In my eyes, that's not the end of that scenario. Something else is coming. You need to prepare for it. But at least you've had some form of heads up to do something about it.
Prepare for the impact of what that could be. I don't know whether that's going to be you're going to get something back as a client, or they've gone off and taken your data. You just need to be prepared for what that data contained. Interestingly, we've done lots of cases, and we handle 400 plus a year, and we see lots of different types of data get exfiltrated, and each time I'm amazed at what's taken, what's in there, what that means to a business. I love learning about that side of things, as much as it's not very good for our clients who are victims of this. From a professional point of view, it's very interesting. Sometimes they take data, and I've spoke to and I said, "Oh, look at these drawings. These are your IP. These are your technical things. That's what you make." And they sort of go, "Yeah, but it doesn't matter if people see them. We're the only ones who own the 5 machines that make these. They don't know how to make that. They can't make this. So that information has zero value to anyone except us." And you can then go, interesting, until again, it's not. And someone does know how to make those. Yeah. So I don't
want to get political, but that was what the US-China effect. Chinese stole aircraft designs and went, "Oh, we'll just make it ourselves," and worked out how to make it themselves. Yeah. But I think we just don't know. That's the biggest issue. Is we just don't know. You can have teams come in and help you out. You can have, we do it. We put the tabletops down. We ask clients, what is your most valuable asset that you're trying to protect, this, that, and the other. And it's not necessarily that people can get DA. They don't care about that. What they care about is the access to that asset and if it can be stolen, if it can be extorted and stuff like that. But I think that's still needed. Don't just discount doing that. Be proactive, do it. So you know what they're after. If they do steal data, that's probably what they're going for. So then you've got a risk associated to it. You could put planning into place. You've got the IR readiness. You've got your tabletop readiness to know if this happens, this is what This is
the process and methodology we're going to follow to get to a resolution, whatever that's going to be.
Interesting problem. I think it's a very difficult one, and I've enjoyed this talk because it's the future and we don't quite know what's next. We can just theoreticize and hypothesize on this because we're coming from a place of what we've seen and what we kind of are seeing.
I think it's easy when you can do direct correlations. You can say quantum computing is essentially making more powerful computers. That triangle of password, everyone's seen it. Password complexity is a little break. You get past 14 characters and it starts going into years, and that whole triangle goes down. So now you're back up to 30 characters. Password. That's why I think passwordless is more important, because no one's having a 30 password character, right? No matter how good a sentence or song you write out.
And I know people keep saying passwordless. It's fine until biometrics is broken.
Yeah.
What encryption are you using for it?
Your data's stolen and someone's got your biometric data, so now they can log into everything without having your password.
But it's how it's processed, it's how it's delivered, there's a lot around it. But it's how we as a human race work in the technology space, and how criminals are going to exploit us. So if we move on as a human race in tech, we move on as a human race in financial, we start opening up more cryptocurrencies that are regulated by the banks rather than cash, etc., etc. They're going to target these new things, and it's all right as saying, do this, do that, but tomorrow when a new product's released and everyone uses it, there's a new vector on the way.
I always get asked, is it like a tortoise and a hare where one races forward and the other's catching up? Are we catching up with the hare and I say that's not the right analogy. I think it's more of a cat and mouse. There is a cheese on the table. There will always be a cheese on the table, and there are hundreds and hundreds of mice, and our job is to try and catch them before they get anywhere near, but there will always be that one mice that gets through and gets that cheese. We'll come back afterwards and fill up the hole and stop them getting it again, but they're constantly trying new things. and you don't know which one is the one that's going to work.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's something super left field that no one's ever thought about. You know, that's often how it happens. It's sort of,
That's the mind of a
"Oh,
hacker, right?
didn't see that coming." You know, and we'll all say that. I'm perfect example of Captain Hindsight. I go into cases after and do the investigation and say, "Oh, should have had that shut." Well, that's what they did.
Yeah.
But it's always a case of, if you really knew before it happened, you'd be protecting against it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that.
No, nice. So yeah, as we've just discussed, I think it's become very apparent that no one actually knows what the cyber attacks tomorrow are going to be. If you did, let me know, because I'll come join your company. We'll make a lot of money. But it's essentially, what we do know is that we're going to have to enact good security, and that just has a process and a methodology that we already have today, and we keep going at that. It's not something that will ever end. Security will never end, right? As long as there are attackers, as long as they're making money.
That's it, right? And people, they only do it because there's money on the table for them to gain. And whether it's from small fry up to your big fish in the pond, they're all trying to make money. It's how they get that money in at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think I end with that saying, the prior planning and preparation prevents poor performance, right? It's all in the preparation and planning, and then reacting to what comes along.
Yep. Excellent.
Awesome. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.